Welcome to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders, owners, and professionals are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Hear from industry experts on everything from marketing, leadership, financing, and more. Brought to you by HAYVN, a co-working space where you can connect, create, and get stuff done.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. I am your host, Nancy Sheed, and I am joy-filled to be speaking today to Lisa Corrado. Lisa is a coach who works with small business owners and entrepreneurs to implement new strategies, systems, and mindsets so they can achieve their next level vision. Lisa, welcome!
Thank you. I am joy-filled as well. And now I'm going to use that word all over the place. I mean, only when it makes sense. Only when I'm actually joy-filled. But thank you for that.
I know you. That's often. So I'm thrilled to kick off this joy-filled podcast and chatting with you. I kind of cut to the chase with who you are and what you do. But Lisa, when I first met you, you were not a coach of businesses. And I know you've had an interesting career that's gotten you to where you are. Can you share with our listeners a little bit about your fascinating journey that brought you to this place that includes corporate gig, I'm not going to give away any more secrets. You share with us how you got here.
I am happy to do so because I have very much a zigzag pathway to where I've gotten to, and it makes total sense to me. And I think it's also nice to give an example to other people and say it doesn't have to be A to B to C to D, and you don't have to use the degree that you got in college if you don't want to. So
100%.
Yeah, I did start in corporate when I graduated from college, graduated into a recession back in the 90s. So I started at General Foods, which was an amazing company to work for. Company is no longer around. Went on to use my computer degree as the director of project management for a large marketing research company and realized that I was not joy-filled in any sense of the word, not at all. So I took a little time to figure out what I wanted to do. And I realized two things. At the time, I really loved books and I really loved reading books about nutrition. So I actually, while still at corporate, went to grad school to get a master's in nutrition. And then I was going to open a nutrition practice, except I was scared. So I stayed with the really high, nice paycheck that I had at corporate. And I'm glad that I paused because then I had the opportunity to attend culinary school. And that's when it all came together. So when I left corporate, I started my own business, nutritional counseling, but it was actually primarily personal chef work in the beginning and working with lots of different families.
I did not realize that was a side hustle. I know you did that. I didn't realize a side hustle while you were in corporate. You were side hustling before side hustling was a thing.
I was doing it. And I whenever I tell this, I always say my inspiration was my father-in-law who returned from World War II, worked full time and went to school at night for years to get his degree. And I thought, okay, I don't have to go to school quite as long as he does. He did it. He showed me the path. I can do it. So I ran this personal chef nutritional counseling business. The personal chef part lasted about 5 years before another recession hit. And all of my clients who were paying me loads of money to cook them food were like, hey, we don't have loads of money anymore. And I said, that's actually not a problem. I'm very tired of this physical job. I'm going to focus on the nutritional counseling. And I did that. I wound up doing the whole thing for 13 years.
Wow.
And just absolutely loved what I did, but did get a little burnt out because my niche was people who had really significant gastroenterology issues. And it became kind of heavy to work with people who were really, really sick. So I paused, thought about it, realized I loved the one-on-one component of it. I loved the goal setting. I loved the coaching part of it. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. So I went back to school again and got trained in the coactive coaching method. And now I coach individuals one-on-one. I coach them in groups, and I work with organizations to coach their people and speak to their people. And I absolutely love it. And I love that I feel like I've taken the best parts of each job and brought it with me
Mm.
to the next one. And I feel that's why everything makes sense. That's why it makes total sense to me.
And I love sharing that. And it's like I said, one of my favorite parts about chatting with people. I think it's really helpful. And if you had told your computer science self in college that you would be a business coach and doing a job that probably we didn't even know about or didn't exist, it's really helpful. And it's not, I always say, I like you said zigzag, but I also sort of say the circuitous route that,
Hmm.
brought you to this point. Lisa, one of the things I love that I witness in your work now where you are is goal setting. And most of us, completely cringe, right? Like it's like, oh, it's that goal setting thing. But you do it in such an inspiring, manageable, doable way. How did that evolve as part of your practice, or how did that become one of your sort of things? Because you do it unlike anything I've ever witnessed before, and you've made me actually understand how reaching a goal works in a way that works.
Oh, thank you for saying that. It really evolved. It started in my nutritional counseling practice because there was a big component of goal setting when I worked with my clients. So, some people wanted to lose weight, so that's a very specific goal. Some people had symptoms to manage. So, it was really understanding okay, what do you want to achieve and why? And I realized that the people who were doing the best we were following a process. I didn't have my process then, but we were like naturally gravitating towards it. And I realized that it's a lot easier to do successful and effective goal setting if there's a process to follow. So over the years, I just kept adding to it, saying, oh, wow, this has been really helpful. And it's still evolving now.
Mm,
I do things a little bit differently now than I did back in the beginning. And I think a process makes anything easier. If somebody says, okay, these are the steps to go through, you still have to do the steps yourself and you don't have to figure out what the steps are. And I think that takes a burden off people that they can just show up and say, okay, this is what I'm doing first, and then I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this. And all along the way, I know, I've been promised that I will, as a result, set the right goals at the right time and set them in the right priority. So we also, I have to establish that trust with the client and say, like, this is where you're going to get to. I promise you, you're going to get here. So just trust the process, trust me, and you're going to get there.
can we tease out a little bit more of this? Because I have been witness to this, and I think what I would say from the other side of the table is you say you have a process and it's not a framework. You figure out a way that framework works for the person who's setting their goals, which is such a
Yeah.
wonderful thing. And so I'm just, this is the shout out for people who are like, oh, I don't want to process, blah. And, self-proclaimed
Yeah.
anti-process person here. And that framework is literally, I want to take even a step back, asking the questions to sort of even be clear on the goal. So would you
Hmm.
mind sharing a little bit, just, a high level overview of some of the things that you ask people when they're thinking about setting their goals?
Hmm. I'm so glad you asked me that. There are lots of questions that I can ask. And it's true. I'm so glad that you kind of pushed back on this a little bit because it isn't that everybody has to go through all the same steps. It really is important that I meet each person where she or he is,
Mm,
right? Not like, okay, you have to get up here to be able to work with me. No, 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 no. I'm going to meet you wherever you are. So we start off really, there might be, I don't know if we would call this pre work, but we really start with understanding like values and what's important to you and who are you and who do you want to serve? How do you want to feel as the business owner? So we take a nice deep inner look. And we also, then we use that information to understand, okay, what's the impact that you want to have? And that's where we start to talk about goals. Okay, how does that impact happen? What targets do you need to set in order for your vision to come true? So we really, it's a lot of conversation, not simply filling in blanks or checking off boxes. And it's really along the way, like touching in with it again and making sure, yeah, this is right. And exploring the goal all the way to it being completed. Like we visualize that so that somebody can see, like, yes, this is how I want things to be, or no, I'm not willing to do what has to happen for this goal to happen. Let me find something else. I have had people go through the whole conversation and process with me and realize that the end result, what they thought they wanted to achieve, isn't actually what they wanted to achieve. It's not going to make their business the way they want it to be, or they're going to have to be a different type of person and they're not willing to do that work right now, or maybe at all. So I said, that's beautiful. That's great. You haven't wasted any time. We can now turn our attention to something different. And I think what's also important is once we do the goal setting, we do prioritizing. And I think that's something that gets lost because as business owners, we have 47 bazillion things that we need to do. We're ultimately responsible for the whole shebang. And I think what happens is we say, okay, all of this needs to be done. All of these goals need to be reached. I'm just going to work on them all at the same time. And that's where things fall apart.
Yeah.
That's absolutely where things fall apart. So where I tend to be a bit of a taskmaster is, okay, we're going to set priorities and it's going to be a fewer number than you are comfortable with.
I'm
And
so glad
trust
you
me.
brought that up. I was like, we got to get to the goodness here because this is a huge one.
Yeah. It's so important to set your priorities so that you're working on a smaller number of things at any given time, because there's this great image that I'll just describe. It's, if you think about yourself as, you've got your energy and your efforts and your resources going out like in arrows from you, and you've got 100 of them going out. None of them are going to go that far. But if you focus on just a couple, those are going to go all the way. And then once you're done with those, then you can turn your attention to other ones. So when we try to do too much at one time, nothing gets done well, and most things don't get completed. So if we say, okay, fine, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, I'm only going to work on 2 or 3 things, and that's it. And the rest has to wait. First of all, I get that it's uncomfortable because no, I have to do all the things. That's the response. But the thing is, you aren't doing all the things. Nobody's completing all of those things at one time. So it's recognizing that, hey, yeah, you need to do all these things, but that, you need to choose the order that you do them and give your full attention to each one so that you will actually accomplish them. Because it's not working the other way.
Right.
I don't know why we feel like we have to do everything all at once, but that really is like entrepreneur culture. So that might be where I'm trying to disrupt things. Like, no, just a couple. And then you can do a couple more.
I love that. And just, again, I've seen you do your magic, but I think what's so different here from somebody maybe who's listening who is like, I have my goals. And, typically our brain goes to, there's a number here, or, you know what I mean? Like, somebody says, you have to have measurable goals. Anything can be a goal, first of all, which I think is fantastic. And you explore that. So, but I think in reflecting back to you is I hate to use the word work because it's not, but the exploration work before you even get to setting those goals is huge. Like it really, I don't know whether it's sort of a spring cleaning, but it's a true kind of getting you grounded in where you are, then thinking about the goals, which is, I think, where people just jump in. And that other part that you said that's just fantastic, or that I love that you do on the sort of, okay, here's the goals. Now let's ask a bunch of questions about those. Mm-hmm. Let's just, before you name it or after you've named it and claimed it, let's talk about why it's important. Let's talk about like how important it is. And the other beautiful part that you bring into it is like, what do you need to succeed? Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I hope I'm not giving too much away, but you ask that question of, you ask people to think about what could keep them from succeeding. Like, mm-hmm. In that visualization, like, yes, you talk about getting it, but you also sort of help think through, it's a bit like scenario planning around your goals that I don't think most of us do.
I'm so glad you said that because it is true. I think a couple of things that happen is people, first of all, tend to just grab a goal and say, this is it. I need to
Mm.
make this amount of money and I'm just going to go without asking, is this really important? Why am I doing this? How am I going to do it? And they might create a full action plan, but they might not. What they probably are not doing, which I do with my clients, is okay, you need to plan for the pitfalls. What wants to trip you up? What wants to get in your way? Spoiler alert, a lot of it is you.
Exactly.
And what are you going to do when that happens? So we always do that, and that makes the action so much easier to take, because then when something does go sideways, either like the gremlin voice in your head gets louder, or something more tactical trips you up, maybe somebody drops the ball, and so it could be any, lots of different types of things. What are you going to do when that happens? So we plan that out ahead of time, so that when you're in the moment, you don't have to figure it out. You can say, oh, I thought of this already. I said I was going to try these couple of things, so that's what I'm going to do, and let me see if I can get through this hurdle. So if it's like your limiting beliefs start screaming in your head as you get closer to success and try to hold you back, okay, what's your game plan for that? How are you going to get support? How are you going to work through that? How are you going to like lower the volume on that voice so they're not grabbing your attention? So that's really the planning for the pitfalls is the secret weapon.
It is a beautiful secret weapon. At least, for anybody who's listening as well, I kind of want to give a shout out to the type of scope, in terms of work you can do, or just to somebody who's thinking like, oh my God, I can't even think about setting goals for my business. I'm just stuck, right? And I think you also have this amazing gift, as you said, meeting people where they are, that you can see things. And sometimes not sometimes, I always find that you can see what small steps somebody can take that literally has profound change that I don't think they can see. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I kind of want to say, for somebody even who's just stuck to have a conversation with you, it's one of your gifts, then to the point of, okay, full on business coaching, and then everywhere in between. Like, I'm going to tether, it will tie it back to HAYVN, that you run these amazing, just sort of, what do you call, are they the quarterly planning, or is it annual? Like, what do you call your workshops now that you do? Just where you
So
kind of reveal the curtains behind your system.
Yep. So we have done quarterly planning workshops, and I think it's important to look at it. You want to look at, what do you want to accomplish in the year? But that's too big to really plan out in one go. I think it's important to look in smaller time frames so that it feels more doable. It's like, okay, I only have to look at this thing. So it's something that I learned in culinary school. Like when you're working in a crazy restaurant kitchen and there's like fire and knives and people yelling at you and all this stuff, my mantra was always, what am I doing now? What am I doing next? What am I doing now? What am I doing next? And that, that's a great mantra to get you through a really a period of hard work or challenge, or whatever it is. So that's why I really like to look at a smaller time frame. Plus, I find that some people have trouble saying, well, this is my long-term goal. Like their
Mm.
brains just say, no, 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 we don't feel like going there. And I'm like, okay, no problem. We'll get there. We'll just do it smaller. And the brain can go, okay, yeah, I can think about a couple months. Sure. Let's do that. So that's why we do it more
Yeah,
bite size.
those the 90-day chunks. And to my point earlier, even like one step or task, Lisa, I've seen you unlock magic in people where it's just a huge, they just don't even know where to begin. And it's something as simple as cleaning your office, Nancy.
Wow, that's great advice.
I'm like, okay, Lisa, I'll do that. That's a great idea. Anyway, Lisa, are sitting as we're speaking in the HAYVN podcast room. I know you and I've been fans of HAYVN from day one. Share with listeners sort of your, for lack of a better word, relationship with HAYVN. Because I know you bring a lot of your gifts and talents to HAYVN, but I'm happy to see you there and share with our listeners sort of what HAYVN means to you.
So I have been here since before day one, which is so exciting. So I, along with my business partner Belinda own a networking organization called Entrepreneurial Women's Club. And way back when, we had Felicia Rubenstein come in and present to the group her idea for a co-working space. So we got to see it when it was an idea. And then we got to when she built it, we got to bring our EWC meetings into her idea and become part of the community. And now I get to sit in her beautiful, beautiful idea. So one of the gifts that Felicia has is just connection and community. For me, it's not, I need a desk to work at. It's, I want to be in the community. I want to see who's there. I want to be participating. And I love that. And I'm also excited to share that HAYVN is going to be the new owner of the Entrepreneurial Women's Club. Belinda and I have sold it to HAYVN, and we knew it was absolutely the right place for it to go. Absolutely the right place.
Like breaking news here on the HAYVN Hubcast.
Yeah. Yep.
That's exciting.
It's very, very exciting. We're really thrilled about it. We know, we had run it for 4.5 years, and we couldn't nurture it the way it wants to be nurtured. And I thought, I know exactly where I want it to go, and I hope they say yes. And
that is
just
fantastic.
Said yes. So, yeah.
All right. Well, watch this space. So from we can find you at HAYVN. Lisa, what's the best way to connect with you, or how can people reach out and sort of learn more about you or the Entrepreneurial Women's Group Club? Tell me, how would you like people to contact you?
So probably the best way is to go to my website, lisacorrado.com. And I always love to have conversations with new people. So like you said, I love finding like a nugget or an action step or something that somebody can take and run with. So if people want to have like a strategy session with me for no charge, you can just go to the scheduling tab on my website and book a Better Than Ever strategy session. And we'll talk, and you'll walk away with something that is going to be valuable to you. That is my guarantee. So I love having those conversations, because one of the things I would like to say is that it's so important for me to help entrepreneurs and small business owners, because I know just how terrifying it can be to either make the leap from corporate or make the leap from not corporate, and to say like, hey, this is what I do. I think it's valuable. Please like me, right? That's essentially what we're doing every single day. And that is absolutely scary. So the more I can support small business owners, the happier I am, because I know how scary that is. I know how scary it was for me. And I just want to be of service.
And you are. So I call Lisa, I promise. Her guarantee is 150%, not even 100% in terms of worth the time. Lisa, thank you for being you. Thank you for being of service to those of us who are in the small business and solopreneur world. And thank you for all that you do for HAYVN.
Well, and thank you. I was so happy to be able to be part of this conversation. Thank you for having me on. I always love talking to you. So thank you for this opportunity, Nancy.
And we will see you again for another episode of the HAYVN Hubcast. That's it for now.
Thanks for listening to the HAYVN Hubcast, a place to learn what business leaders and owners are doing to navigate and grow in today's market. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. HAYVN is a co-working space and virtual community located in the heart of Fairfield County, Connecticut. HAYVN is a hub for business owners and professionals to connect, create, and get stuff done. Find out more about the HAYVN community online at hayvn.com. That's HAYVN.com. HAYVN Hubcast is produced by Sound Advice Strategies.